Welcome to Tech Blueprint, a window that lets you know the latest technology news in the world. Recently, Intel has been experiencing some interesting developments. Originally facing a serious financial crisis, the company appointed new CEO Lip-Bu Chen and is undergoing a comprehensive overhaul. Unexpectedly, this has caught the attention of Trump, making the situation even more interesting. First, Trump demanded Chen's immediate resignation. However, after Chen visited the White House for a meeting, the situation suddenly reversed. Recently, news broke that Japan's SoftBank has suddenly intervened, and the US is also making a fuss about subsidies. Intel's turnaround has arrived. Trump's sudden shift in tone is absolutely unpredictable and truly admirable. Regarding Intel, Trump initially stated on social media that Intel CEO Lip-Bu Chen must resign immediately, with no room for negotiation, due to a serious conflict of interest. Who could have imagined that within a few days, his stance would completely reverse? After Chen's White House meeting, Trump no longer demanded his resignation, but instead praised Chen's success story. That wasn't all. Just a few days later, US media broke another explosive news. The Trump administration planned to acquire a stake in Intel. Negotiations were ongoing, hoping to help Intel overcome its difficulties and further enhance its semiconductor manufacturing capabilities. Isn't this a swift reversal? They were initially demanding the CEO's resignation, only to then invest in the company to help it overcome its difficulties. All these changes naturally stemmed from Lip-Bu Chen's meeting with Trump, but also from Intel's own position in the U.S. semiconductor manufacturing sector. Intel had originally planned to build a large-scale wafer fab in the U.S., but these plans were repeatedly delayed due to the crisis. As a long-established U.S. chip giant, Intel has dominated the global chip industry for decades. If it were to suddenly collapse due to a financial crisis, it would inevitably have a more severe impact on the US's weak domestic semiconductor manufacturing sector. Thus, Trump's proposal to acquire a stake in Intel to address its difficulties was also intended to enhance US semiconductor manufacturing capabilities. It's clear that Trump treats companies differently based on their circumstances. For Intel, he invested in a capital increase, while for Apple and Nvidia, he demanded increased investment. Apple pledged a $600 billion investment, and Nvidia pledged 15% of its H20 revenue. However, Trump isn't going to be so simplistic as to directly provide Intel with additional funds. Recently, Bloomberg reported that the Trump administration is in talks with Intel to acquire a 10% stake, becoming Intel's largest shareholder. However, the Trump administration isn't making a direct investment. Instead, it plans to convert a portion of the subsidies promised to Intel under the CHIPS and Science Act into funds for the share purchase. Previously, the U.S. planned to provide Intel with $10.9 billion in subsidies. Based on Intel's current valuation of approximately $100 billion, the converted subsidies would equate to a 10% stake. Isn't this quite interesting? Trump is truly Trump, a businessman by trade. The subsidies were originally provided to Intel, but after some manipulation, they increased in value, making the U.S. government Intel's largest shareholder. Intel is reportedly currently receiving $2.2 billion in subsidies. Trump originally planned to suspend the remaining subsidies after taking office. Intel had hoped the subsidies would alleviate its current financial crisis. Now there's hope, but it still requires equity in exchange. Not only is the U.S. government at work, but Japan's SoftBank Group also recently made a surprise move, becoming Intel's fifth largest shareholder. According to media reports, Japan's SoftBank has signed a definitive securities purchase agreement with Intel, under which SoftBank will purchase $2 billion worth of Intel common stock at $23 per share. This investment will make SoftBank Intel's fifth largest shareholder. It's important to note that SoftBank is more than just an investment company. It previously acquired the British company ARM. This partnership will not only bring significant capital to Intel, but also potentially generate more orders for ARM-based chips. Recently, Intel showcased its first non-x86-based SoC based on the 18A process, aiming to attract ARM users. Some foreign media outlets have directly commented that Intel has turned a corner. Not only does the U.S. government plan to acquire a stake in Intel, potentially providing further chip subsidies, but SoftBank has also sent another $2 billion, potentially generating orders from ARM users. The situation appears promising, but whether the U.S. government will fully provide the remaining subsidies remains uncertain. SoftBank's $2 billion is still far from enough to cover Intel's financial crisis, and Intel's turnaround remains fraught with challenges.